The transfer portal has been going crazy since it opened up. As of right now, there are more than 1,300 players that have entered the portal. There are also 150 players that have already transferred to new programs. Today, we're going to be looking at the 10 best players who have transferred to a new school over the last week. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football. And odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm posting college football videos every day during the off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. We'll kick things off with Florida State as they just added former South Carolina tight end Jaheim Bell. Bell has been with South Carolina for the last 3 seasons. Bell was limited in 2020 after undergoing surgery prior to the start of the season, but in 2021, he was fully healthy and appeared in all 13 games. He caught 30 passes for 500 yards with 5 receiving touchdowns. He was named second team All-SEC as a sophomore. Then, this past season in 2022, Bell caught 25 passes for over 200 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns, but he added 260 yards on the ground with 3 rushing scores. Oregon is going to be mentioned quite a number of times in today's video, and we're going to start with wide receiver 7 McGee, who announced he'd be transferring to Jackson State. McGee originally committed to Oregon all the way back in 2018 as a member of the 2021 class. He appeared in all 13 games as a freshman in 2021, but he racked up only 61 yards on 14 carries with a touchdown. He added 7 receptions for 84 yards. Following the conclusion of last season, McGee initially entered the transfer portal following the departure of Mario Cristobal, but he was able to be talked out of the decision and returned to Oregon for 2022. But things just didn't go great for McGee this past year. He converted from running back to wide receiver full-time and just didn't see the field much at all. He finished the season with 11 catches for 67 yards and no touchdowns. McGee originally announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal all the way back on October 31st, more than a month before the portal even officially opened. According to his Instagram, 7 McGee had numerous Power 5 opportunities, but he chose to go to Jackson State despite Deion Sanders leaving for Colorado. Speaking of Oregon, former Alabama wide receiver Traeshon Holden announced that he'd be transferring to Oregon. Holden played in 10 games for Alabama this season and started the first 5 games of the year. He caught 25 passes for over 300 yards with 6 receiving touchdowns. Overall, as a junior, Holden has caught 46 passes for just under 600 yards with 7 touchdowns in 24 games while with Alabama. Holden was a 4-star recruit in Alabama's 2020 recruiting class. He was one of 3 wide receivers that signed with the Tide last season, but he's now the 2nd receiver from that class to transfer. We have another wide receiver transferring as former UCF wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe is transferring to Boston College. During his time with the Knights, O'Keefe caught 184 passes for over 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. He said he had offers from Oregon, TCU, and Houston, but decided to transfer to Boston College. According to ESPN, O'Keefe only visited Boston College and picked the Eagles in part because of his strong relationship with wide receivers coach Darrell Wyatt, his former position coach at UCF. O'Keefe said that Wyatt recruited him to UCF and he wanted to reunite with him to continue to develop with the hopes of reaching the NFL. After a really solid junior campaign in 2021, O'Keefe's numbers took a bit of a hit in 2022. Still, he finished the season with 73 receptions for over 700 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. He also added over 200 yards on the ground, averaging 10 yards a carry. We're just going to continue this trend of wide receivers as former Old Dominion wide receiver Jennings transferred to Virginia Tech. In an injury-shortened season in 2022, Jennings caught 54 passes for nearly 1,000 yards with 9 receiving touchdowns. He appeared in only 9 games before undergoing season-ending surgery after suffering a leg injury. Jennings also had offers from Duke, Colorado, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Rutgers, and Pittsburgh. Fontel Mines, who coached the wide receivers at Old Dominion during Jennings' first season with the program, has the same position now for Virginia Tech. Jennings was named All-Sun Belt first team this season after his incredible season, but he's really had an incredible career with Old Dominion since transferring from West Virginia. In 2 seasons with Old Dominion, time, he's caught 116 passes for over 2,000 yards and 14 receiving touchdowns. Let's talk about a position other than wide receiver. Former Nebraska linebacker Ernest Hausmann announced he was transferring to Michigan. According to some outlets, he's considered to be one of the top players that has entered the transfer portal this offseason. The linebacker started 7 games as a true freshman for Nebraska in 2022. He appeared in 10 games, recording 54 tackles with 36 solo tackles. He had 1 sack and 1 fumble recovery. Ironically, he had one of his best games of the season against Michigan when he racked up 10 tackles. According to Pro Football Focus, he was tied for 8th in tackles among all Power 5 freshmen. Speaking of Michigan, they're losing a player in tight end Erick All, who announced he'd be transferring to Iowa. He's actually not the first Michigan player to transfer to Iowa, as former quarterback Cade McNamara also transferred to the Hawkeyes as well. All is a former All-Big Ten honorable mention and was a team captain. Overall, he appeared in a total of 35 games over 4 seasons at Michigan. During his Michigan career, he caught 54 passes for 560 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. Injuries limited him to only 3 games this season, in which he only caught 3 passes. His best season came in 2021 when he caught 38 passes for over 400 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. Alright, speaking of Iowa, we're actually going to transition back to Oregon. Former Iowa linebacker Justin Jacobs transferred to Oregon. Jacobs originally joined the Iowa football program all the way back in 2019, but still has 3 years of eligibility remaining. He redshirted in 2019 and played in 2020 and 2021, but he played in fewer than 4 games this season after going down with a season-ending injury back in September. 2021 was his best season with Iowa. He racked up 53 tackles, had 2 pass deflections, an interception, and a forced fumble. But as I mentioned, he played in only 2 games this season as he suffered a leg injury in the first game of the season. He returned a couple of weeks later, but re-aggravated the injury and had to undergo surgery. He finished the season with just 6 tackles and 1 pass deflection. Missouri comes in on this video as they add former Oklahoma wide receiver Theo Wease. During his 3 seasons with the Sooners, Wease caught 64 passes for over 1,000 yards with 10 receiving touchdowns. He was pretty quiet this season as he caught only 19 passes, but he turned that into 400 yards for 4 touchdowns. His best season came back in 2020 when he caught 37 passes for over 500 yards with 4 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he missed all of the 2021 season due to an injury. He was one of the more sought-out recruits coming out of high school back in the 2019 class. He was a 5-star recruit and, according to Rivals.com, was the 11th overall recruit in the country. Although he hasn't quite lived up to expectations just yet, he still has 2 years of eligibility remaining. Now, this last one is pretty interesting as he wasn't at a program last season, but according to numerous reports, wide receiver Destin Hill is expected to transfer to Florida State and enroll in the university in May. Now, there apparently is a very curious case with Destin Hill, as essentially no one knows what has happened to him over the last few years. In February of 2021, the 4-star wide receiver signed his letter of intent to play at Florida State. He was considered to be one of the top wide receiver recruits of his entire class, but he didn't enroll during the summer semester. Florida State said that his enrollment was delayed due to a personal matter, and he's just been nowhere to be found over the last few years. But based on what I've been seeing on Twitter, a lot of people expect him to actually enroll this time at Florida State and potentially be with the team in 2023. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. Who's the top player I talked about the transfer that you think is going to make the biggest impact at their new school in 2023? Whoever it is, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day during the off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.